So to go back to your own kind of unraveling your own family history, from what I can tell, it sounds like there have been layers peeled back with various generations
Yeah.
of Prestons. And I'm curious, for the future descendants of the Preston family, if you had a message to them about your own experiences with family history, what legacy would you like to leave? What message would that be?
That you really have to study the history so that we avoid the mistakes that were made in the past. And you just really have to look at the things that we did wrong and the things that we did right as a family. But we can never fall into some of the traps that our ancestors fell into before us, such as not being willing to confront slavery, such as perhaps taking advantage of the Native Americans in a way that was to their great detriment. And I think what we really need to learn from our family, too, is we've got to learn to get along with everybody. And you've got to try to understand. You've got to reach out and get along. And I think one of the great legacies of the Preston family, I'll talk about two, and you can stop me, is how involved it was in education. You look at the number of schools that the Preston family was involved in founding, starting schools like the University of Virginia, VMI, Washington Lee, Virginia Tech, through the Preston and Olin, or Olin and Preston Institute, whatever you want to call it. And that relations of the Preston family were involved in, like Emory and Henry, Hampton, Sidney. This is a family that's really been interested in education as well, and I think helped by helping found institutions of education, helped people to understand each other a little bit better. Now, admittedly, a lot of those institutions, they all were segregated from the start, and it took a while before they were integrated. But at least the family was trying to make sure people got an education. Because I think you have to be educated, or I shouldn't say that. The more education you have, the better you should be able to understand the challenges and deal with the challenges. And I think they really need to look at the struggles that our family had with enslavement, where some of us recognize it was wrong. I mean, for some people like William Preston, we have no idea what he really thought, because he really didn't leave much in the way of writing. I mean, I think he's one of these people who's a doer, not somebody like Jefferson who had the time to write all the time. I mean, he didn't leave much of a written record. But you look at people, and I'm going to my side of the family, like James McDowell, the second, who was governor of Virginia, but who, when he was in the House of Delegates in the 1830s after the Nat Turner Revolt, introduced a bill to try to end slavery. Now, they were going to send the enslaved people back to Africa, which I think we'd all agree now was not a great solution. But they came at that time in the House of Delegates within a couple of votes of passing that bill. Now, it never would have passed the state Senate, but you saw people trying to confront the issue and recognizing there was a problem. Now, after they lost that time, I think they just went back and said, okay, that's it. We tried, and we'll live with things the way they were. Well, sometimes you wish they just pushed harder, because if they had, and it might have been confrontational, it might have caused more issues like the nullification efforts by South Carolina and states like that. It might have helped to end slavery sooner. But I think the other thing we have to look at, and it can come from the number of Prestons who participated in the Civil War on the southern side, all the damage and destruction that caused. And if people had just been willing to listen to each other and talk to each other, you might have worked out a solution. You might have found a way to do it without the need for a terrible, terrible war that injured people on both sides. And I think we're still recovering from, And even these days, I think some of the things that happened, are causing part of the dissension that we have now. And I don't know how you feel as a historian, but when I look at the dissension and the extremist groups we have now, a lot of what they're saying is the same things we heard back before the Civil War, especially in the period of the 1850s, and the types of actions in Congress. And I think we're getting close to it, where President Brooks would hit Sumner over the head with a cane on the floor of the Senate. And we're getting to that type of disreputable behavior in Congress with the way, especially in the House of Representatives, the folks there don't talk to each other. And we've got to get back to where we can have reasonable discourse, and we've got to work on that. And I would say, look at the examples of the family members who tried to work on that, where you did talk to each other. And you may not have always agreed, but at least you talked to each other. And be reasonable and listen to others. And that's what we're trying to do at Smithfield now. I want it to be a place, and I don't have that much influence over it. I want a place where we can let everybody express their views. We listen to them respectfully, and we learn from them. But we really learn to listen. Because I think the greatest problem we have right now, and it's on both the left and the right, is people will not listen. They just sort of state their view. They assume it's right.